Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Andrew Santangelo, and we have a interesting episode today, I guess you could say. The first time that we are attempting to dual stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. I say attempting to dual stream because I honestly have no idea what in the world is going on here. It says it works, then it doesn't show anything, then it says it works, but I don't really know. So this is going to be a weird trying to make this work episode. I have no idea what it's going to do, but we will try to figure it out. What I am excited for this format, and I'm also excited to talk a little bit about my trip. As you know, we were not here Thursday. I was on vacation out in New Mexico, and on my way out there, I picked up this fun little baseball hat, Andrew. This supports the Hooker Chamber of Commerce. They have a little, not professional baseball team, a little high school team they run during the summer. The Hooker Horny Toads, because when you're in Hooker, Oklahoma, you got to have a hat for the Horny Toads. And so this is a new thing, wearing a hat on the show now. Andrew always has a baseball hat on, so I figured it is time for me to wear a hat as well. So I'm excited to join the People with Hats committee, I guess you could say. I have this hat. It also supports kids. Every purchase of a hat goes directly to their scholarship fund that they have specifically for the Hooker Horny Toads baseball team. So I'm excited to see what goes on out there. Lovely people out in the panhandle of New Mexico, and I'm happy I made the trip, but I'm also happy to be back. So as always, turning it over to you, Andrew, the first question of the day. Andrew, how's it going today?
Well, I was going to reverse it and ask you how your trip was going when you sent me that, but it sounds like your trip went well. I'm glad to hear that. And, no, that's a cool story about the hat. Welcome to the Hat Club. It's always been a big collection of mine. I have plenty of hats back in my house. So, no, I always try to get a new hat every year, if not more than one. But, no, I'm doing well. Had a chance to run home, let the dog out real quick, because that's a new, I don't think I mentioned that in the last show. Got a new little puppy, so
there you go.
That's had to run home real quick, let her out, and like you said, great to be back and do the show.
What kind of puppy do you have, if you don't mind me?
It's a good question. They just told me mixed breed.
Okay.
If I had to guess, I can show you a picture. If I had to guess, I'd say definitely some German Shepherd in there, but I guess I can't say for sure. I am debating we're doing one of those. I know you can do like one of those DNA tests or whatever. So
yeah.
I'm debating doing that, but. If I had to guess, I'd say part German Shepherd somewhere. Hold on. Well, it'd be easy if I didn't scroll past it.
Yeah. Oh, there's a cute little puppy.
So, I think some German Shepherd in there, but until I guess get the result or do the DNA test, I won't really know.
All right. Well, let's get right into it, starting with not the main story of the day, but a story that definitely popped up just about 2 hours ago. Being that Julio Jones is signing a one-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As if Tampa Bay didn't need to be any more stacked than they already are talent-wise, why not add a Pro Bowl receiver to the mix as well?
Absolutely. The rich get richer is basically what happened today in football and the NFL. As training camp actually opened up league-wide for most teams, I think, or at least the report day. So a nice way for Tampa Bay to start their 2022 season training camp as they bring in Julio Jones. But assuming Mike Evans stays healthy, I mean, that's going to be a crazy duo there, obviously, with Tom Brady throwing to him. So it's gonna be I hate to say it because I want to see like another team take over there for Tampa Bay, but it's going to be another fun team for Tampa Bay, another fun year for them probably. I'm sure they'll be a top 2, if not 3 seed there in the NFC. So it's going to be a fun year there for Buccaneer fans, and congratulations. You just got richer and have a lot of weapons out there for Tom Brady.
They absolutely do. I really don't know if they have that many footballs to go around on that
right?
team. I mean, you have nearly every weapon you could possibly want, and you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game. It feels like, once again, this feels like a last year's thing where if Tampa doesn't make it to a conference championship game, they failed as a team, is what it almost feels like, which that's such a high bar to get to in the NFL. But when you have all these weapons, that's the standard you have to set for yourself.
No, absolutely. I think fans expect that too. Obviously, football, tough sport to go out there. They added another game, obviously, so obviously injury will always be a concern, and obviously you wish that on them. But that's honestly the biggest question with the Buccaneers. Obviously, Tom Brady's been fairly healthy for his career, but he is that next age. Everyone always asks, well, what's that age he's going to finally, you see, kind of fall off a little bit. One, I don't know if we'll ever see that, but obviously we'll see what his body can do. Mike Evans, obviously we know his injury history, so that's the thing. And Julio Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was banged up a little bit last season. Obviously had a good year, but he was still banged up a little bit. So this team, and I think they were missing some running backs a little bit last year as well. That's going to be the biggest question mark for Tampa Bay is, can they stay healthy all year? Can they get back there? But assuming they're all healthy, there's no way this team isn't a league favorite, if not Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the things listed here. Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rashad Perryman, Scotty Miller, Tyler Johnson, Russell Gage, Kyle Rudolph as well. Yeah. You got a lot of people to throw the ball to.
Absolutely. And Tom Brady loves his tight end, so Kyle Rudolph's a big addition because Gronkowski's retiring, so Rudolph there can replace that veteran experience there at tight end. So, no, it's going to be a good season for Tampa Bay, and their defense is never anything to fall off about. It's always pretty good. And then, obviously, another big question mark. I mean, he's got the weapons here to make up for some coaching decisions, but they got a new coach coming in. So, how's he going to do? He obviously has NFL experience, but, again, it's going to be a new voice in that locker room. We'll see how it's able to do. So, overall, I think they'll be fine. I'm just raising I'm being the counterpart here. I'm offering some of the small questions this team has.
Yeah. And moving on to our next story here in the NBA, the Boston Celtics, among several teams who have entered the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, Brooklyn's still trying to find a deal. It's expected that Jaylen Brown would be a centerpiece in the deal if Boston is to make this trade with a bunch of other pieces. I would assume you'd have to do probably several first-round picks in there as well. But Miami, Phoenix, Toronto have been well-known trying to get Kevin Durant. Boston now joining the mix. Obviously, being a Philadelphia fan, Cade going to Boston would not be the highest thing on your priority list. But what would this trade look like for the Celtics? If you trade Jaylen Brown, what would you have? You have a core of Durant and Tatum, I would assume. That's what Boston would be trying to go for. But you don't really have a third guy. I mean, is Al Horford your third guy? Is Marcus Smart your third guy? Or one of those guys getting traded to make this salary work? Or what goes on here?
So first, I mean, obviously they make it breaking news, another team in the sweepstakes. I always laugh at that because, I mean, we both know if you're a GM actually doing your job, you've entered the sweepstakes at some point for Kevin Durant.
They have publicly entered the sweepstakes.
So that's what it makes it sound like the Celtics just called him up today and was like, hey, I heard Kevin Durant's available. What do you guys need from us for Durant? No. Like, it's been going on for a while.
My favorite part about this, I've got to say, was Woj tweeting this at 2:30 a.m. our time and everyone telling him to go to sleep on Twitter. That was a fun addition.
No, absolutely. And that's what's fun about it. So, but to answer your question here, what will a trade package look like? And obviously, like you said, as a Sixers fan, no, I don't want to see Durant on the Celtics. But here's the thing. Durant's been now in my conference/division for the last couple years. Harden's been there. Kyrie Irving's been there. I think this package is going to obviously have to include Brown. It's going to – I think you have to offer Marcus Smart as well. If I'm the Nets here, you look at your team, you got Seth Curry, you got Ben Simmons, hopefully coming back, and you got Kyrie Irving, and then you bring in Jaylen Brown. That'll be your core, obviously. Here's the problem. Outside of Ben Simmons, who's really a good defender? Not really anybody. Seth Curry, I mean, I've watched him play defense. I love Seth Curry. He can shoot the lights out, but when it comes to defense, he's a liability. Joe Harris, he's a liability on defense. So, to me, go get a defender. You're going to bring on Marcus Smart in this trade as well. And you can even have Smart come off the bench. We've seen him be a sixth man before, so you can roll out a lineup of Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown. Well, maybe you can put Smart small forward, but you have Joe Harris still, obviously. I'd even possibly move Brown to. This says shooting guard on the trade machine, but I'd even move him to possibly small forward. And you can roll out Irving, Curry, Brown, Griffin, and then a center. I forgot they lost Andre Drummond. I was going to say Drummond, but I forgot he went to Chicago for a second. But so there's options there. But no, if I'm the Nets, I'm asking for Brown, Smart, throw in a younger guy maybe you take a chance on. So I don't know, maybe actually you might try to bribe him into letting you get one of the Williams. I'd sacrifice an extra first round pick for one of the Williams, and then you can roll out Williams at the power forward/center. Whether it's Robert or I think it's Grant Williams. Is that correct?
Yeah, Grant Williams.
So. I'd roll out one of them. And now you do Brown, Smart, Williams, and maybe a 2 firsts or something like that. So, I mean, that's a lot because you have to fix the money too. I mean, Durant's $44 million. And here's the thing. And I know we touched on this. I can't say if it was last week or the week before that, but again, I know I mentioned it. I think you agreed with me, but sometimes, even though you're getting a guy like Kevin Durant, is all those pieces you're giving up make you better or worse? So now, if you're the Celtics, you're going to roll out Durant, Tatum, one of the Williams, obviously, and then Brogdon, point guard. Are you getting better? Obviously, you're getting the best player and a generational talent piece, but is losing Brown, Smart, and Williams a huge loss where, I mean, this team made the finals last year. So does that trade make you that much better in my eyes?
And I know this is something we talked about when Boston was making that finals run. Jaylen Brown was probably the best player on that team when they were making their finals run. Do you risk trading your best player for Kevin Durant, who is 34 years old, can pretty much get out whenever he wants to if he doesn't think the team's fit to win a title? He can move whenever he wants. You trade away Marcus Smart potentially. You're losing the defensive player of the year and possibly your best player to get Tatum, who we don't know if he can play in the big moment. Now, obviously, that's what Kevin Durant would be there for, and you could move Tatum to a second option, which would be good for Boston. But like we said with the Gobert trade to Minnesota, I don't know if that's the best thing for him. You just made the finals in an East that you really only have 2 or 3 main competitors you're dealing with already. Why would you risk it?
No, absolutely. And here's the thing. If you're the Nets, you're trying to get as much out of it because obviously Durant wants out. So this to me, if you're rolling out a lineup next year of – and I would assume this would make Kyrie happy enough to stay. I obviously could be wrong. I don't know Kyrie personally. So I think it'd be enough. So you'd roll out Kyrie, Brown, Smart, Williams, Kirk. I think that team's good enough to challenge I'm just taking them because they were the Eastern Conference Eastern Conference team represented last year. I think that team is good enough to challenge a Durant, Tatum, Horford, I guess, big three. I like Brogdon. I'm not the biggest Brogdon fan, so I'm out. He's a good point guard, but is he? I don't think he's the next level that's going to take you to the next level. And then, because here's what worries me about this Celtics roster if this trade went through is, where's the depth? I mean, who you having coming in play for Brogdon? White, I know he had an exceptional year. Is he that amazing? I mean, I think he played better than he really is this year. Who you having come in for Durant? I mean, I think you'd leave Durant or Tatum on the floor at all times, one of those two, and you interchange their substitutions. But again, who's coming in for them?
I guess it would be Danilo Gallinari.
So, no, I mean, exactly. But to me, he's coming in for a Horford or a Williams. And that, I don't know. That's where it's going to get challenging for the Celtics. Where if you're the Nets here, you got Joe Harris to come in, a good shooter. You got O'Neal. He's been a proven player. I'm not the biggest Goran Dragic fan anymore. I mean, I think he's kind of past his big-time playing days. But Patty Mills off the bench, another good player. I mean, T.J. Warren they signed. So this Nets team, if they're able to do this deal, they have the depth to still get to the finals. So I think from a Nets standpoint, this is one of the better teams to go out after. Obviously, the Suns are up there. I don't know if many teams can match the Celtics package. Is basically what it comes down to. I'll tell you what, it'd be funny if a trade with these three go down, or these two teams go down, just because of the trade we saw in the past, the Garnett and Pierce. So it'd be kind of funny if they have another big-time blockbuster trade.
Yes. I mean, there's a history between these two when it comes to these trades, like you just said. But would history repeat itself? Would it be Boston sending their assets and something bad happening to them this time?
I really do. You mentioned it. 34-year-old Kevin Durant. Obviously, he has plenty. I mean, I think he has at least 4 more years.
Yeah.
But to your point, he's 34. He's had an Achilles injury already in his career. Who knows what his time period is? Like, who knows when it's going to give out or something like that? Kind of like the Tom Brady thing. You just wait for that moment where you start to see the drop-off. And, I mean, let's look at a guy like LeBron James. That guy's been one of the healthiest players in his career. And then in the last 2 years, he's gotten hurt. I mean, obviously still played a lot of games, but he's gotten hurt because the mileage catches up to him in a sport where you're just think about running down up and constantly. And, I mean, it's a big court to me, but for those guys at this point, I mean, it's pretty small. I mean, it's nothing running up and down that court for him. So that mile just piles up and having to go up and down the court. So, I don't know. I think from a 1-year standpoint, if this trade went down, I think you could probably argue the Celtics won the trade. But an overall 5-year down the line, I would say the Nets would win a trade like this.
I think so, too. It's one of those, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
If you're Boston and you want it short term, here's our window. We've got 4 years to put together a team to win a title, and then we can do whatever we want. Perfect. You can do that. But the Nets, I feel like this would be a longer game for them. Okay, Kyrie's probably not going to be here in a year or two. Wherever he goes off to, probably the Lakers. Let's just assume that happens either this year or next year. You're left with Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Ben Simmons. Those are your 3 best players, more than likely, unless something crazy happens and someone comes out of nowhere or they draft someone amazing in a first round or second round or something like that. That puts you as a contention kind of back where they were before Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving came here, as this fringe 7, 8, 9 team maybe in the East, maybe the 10 seed, maybe the 6 seed. Who knows? Somewhere in that 6 to 10 range, just making the playoffs, waiting for your moment. Because they're going to go out eventually. Your big 3, your Miami, your Philadelphia, Boston, their runs are going to come to an end eventually. Mm-hmm. You're going to have your moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where it's going to all come down to, and I've lost my trust in him.
Yes.
But it really is going to all come down to Ben Simmons.
It is.
Because like you mentioned, Kyrie.
Of all people.
No, but here's the thing. Because Kyrie's either going to be out this year or he's going to be out, like you said, next year. Like whether it's the Lakers or whether it's another team. He's already mentioned he really doesn't want to be there. So eventually he's going to find his way out. So it's going to come down to that guard spot's going to open up. Can Ben Simmons come back, be the All-NBA player he was? Can he be the All-Star team he's made before? Is he going to be that guy? Or are we going to see a shell of himself and you're only going to get a handful of assists or something? He's not going to be an All-Star. So it's going to come down to what type of player Simmons, because he's going to have to fill that Kyrie role if Kyrie does leave. But here's the thing, too. If Kyrie stays, are you going to move Simmons to, I guess, a forward spot? And if that's the case and Simmons allows you to agree to that, maybe you don't ask for a Grant Williams. Maybe you ask for a different player there, and maybe you ask for a young White off the bench or something like that. So that's again, it's going to all come down to, if this Nets trade works out, to where's Ben Simmons going to end up? Is he going to be a good team player, a versatile player, and allow them to interchange like that? Or is he going to be the same guy and cause problems where, okay, if Kyrie does leave, Simmons is causing problems. Again, who's your point guard now? Goran Dragic?
I don't know. Do you make Marcus Smart your point guard or say, hey, Jaylen Brown, you're going to learn how to dribble the ball and pass and do? I don't know what you do.
Who would you rather be bringing up the ball in a pressure situation, Jaylen Brown or Marcus Smart? Is it?
I don't know. That truly is a big-time question. Just checking ESPN here. Really not affecting the win percentage of either team here, according to them. If you deal Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown and all these pieces, they're saying they're about even.
And again, and that's why I said you got to be careful with the name, because obviously, if you want Kevin Durant on your team, but if you're giving up a package like this, is it really making you that much better? Because you're giving up 3 solid players for 1 great player. But again, depth is huge in the NBA, and that's where the issues come. And, I mean, this stuff values that, and that's why you don't see much wins here. So, no, it would be an interesting trade. I think, obviously, we all want to see what it winds up doing. And this is where the Rudy Gobert trade comes into play, too, is the Nets have that leverage now. Listen, the Jazz got this, and this for Rudy Gobert.
Hey, they got 5 first-round picks. What can you do for me?
It's nothing against Rudy Gobert, but I think everybody in the world would agree that Kevin Durant's better than Rudy Gobert. Mm-hmm. So all they got to say is they got this for Rudy Gobert, so we want at least that and more.
Yes.
So
I am intrigued to see where these discussions go, I guess is the best way to say it. With the NBA, the off-season is forever. We get a 365-day off-season. They occasionally play some basketball during it. Maybe someone wins a championship. I don't know. But moving on to our final story of the day, another trade deadline is approaching. We talked about some trades in the NBA. We've talked about some signings in the NFL. Now it's time to kind of put 2 and 2 together here. We had the MLB draft, had some people get signed. Always is weird to me they do the draft in the middle of the season. But, hey, what other time are you going to get all the GMs locked together in a chamber for 5 hours, it feels like? Just for one day to draft a few rounds, and then you come back the next day. It's great. We have the MLB trade deadline coming next Tuesday. So next Tuesday at 5 p.m., right when we would about be ready to get on the air, the deadline will be ending. A lot of crazy things will happen. I'm excited. I think having you here, Andrew, helps me with that as someone who knows the ins and outs, so I'm not just looking at it like, oh, that's good, I guess. Like, I don't know. But looking at some of the trade deadline buzz that has happened today, the latest on Juan Soto, the biggest story in the MLB, I would guess you'd say, unless you believe that Ohtani's going to get traded, but I don't think that's going to happen. Maybe someday in the future that'll happen. But Juan Soto, the common consensus to a lot of people is the Nationals are going to deal him. You don't just decline a 15-year, $440 million contract and not get moved after that. If you're not going to commit to the Nationals, and I mean, I don't know if you would want to, given the state of the Nationals right now. But the latest on Juan Soto, as of Tuesday morning, one rival executive believes the Nationals are still relatively early in the process of sorting through offers for him. A lot of the foundation for potential deals still needs to be constructed. Now, the two teams I have heard through rumors and reports coming out as big suitors, I guess you could say, San Diego and St. Louis. Those are the two names I've heard quite a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if someone else snuck in there, the Dodgers and teams like that. They're always seeming to be around when deals like this happen. But it's going to be fun. The Juan Soto sweepstakes is on. Like you said with Kevin Durant, I'm sure everyone's going to have an offer. It's just who are we going to hear about it from? Yeah, no,
this is my favorite. I think it's the best trade deadline all around in all of sports. To me, the MLB trade deadline never fails. This year they added an extra wild card team, so it's only going to be that much better. The bidding for players is only going to be higher because there's going to be more contending teams for those wild card spots. So you're going to really have to give a team what they want. That way they're willing to part if they're close to the wild card spot. So you'll see some contenders for a playoff spot give up on a player, which will be interesting and fun to see the reaction of certain teams like that. But no, strictly Juan Soto, I think, like you said, declining that contract shows he wants out. He's going to be dealt at the deadline. I truly believe that. I think St. Louis will win. I think they have the best mix of ready-now players / upcoming prospects. It's about managing it and getting it to what they want to do. And they are obviously a true contender. I think they sit 2 games back from the Brewers as we sit here and talk now. And they lead the final wild card spot by a half game. So they're obviously a true contender. Nationals are about 30 games under 500, so they are not mathematically out of it, but they're out of it. And again, I think the Cardinals have the best to offer. You'd probably see Carlson, Donovan as 2 big headlines who have seen MLB time this year, and then obviously some probably a 3 or 4 prospect built package there. So, and I know it sounds like a lot, 6 for 1. But
that's a deal you take.
It's a deal you take, and this is what always makes me laugh is seeing fans upset when a big deal goes down. And you'll see whether it's the Cardinals, the Phillies, like whatever team trades for him. Oh, I love that prospect. I got to watch him in the minors a couple times. He's going to be a good player. Blah blah blah. Like I always love hearing that, and like fans getting upset because they traded a prospect who's 2 or 3 years possibly away from the majors for a guy who. A talent you don't get to see that often. It's not like you're trading for a mid-level tier player. You're trading for a generational player. His average is down a little bit this year, but overall, I mean, he's got a lot of talent, and once you lock him up, you'll be able to get the deal done. And here's the thing. Here's what Cardinals have going for him, too, is they obviously are a city to fall in love with. I mean, you look at the years past, Yadier Molina, Adam Wainwright, Albert Pujols. I can keep going on and on if I really wanted to. And Soto's going to buy into it. And what better way? How do you not fall? If you're him, how are you not going to fall in love with a lineup of Goldschmidt, Arenado? They'll still keep Gorman. I guess they could give up Gorman instead of Donovan. I think that'll be an interesting which one they maybe part with on that.
They'll pick someone.
But, yeah, they'll get Donovan or Gorman. And so either way, it's going to be a fun. Obviously, you still have Tommy Pham, too. I mean, so sorry, not Pham, Edmund. Wait.
I was
Edmund, right?
Yeah, I was saying Tommy Pham was a long time ago.
No, I
that is a classic Cardinals era team.
So No, so you have a ton of a ton of players in that lineup. And it'll be fun. I think the Cardinals, if they can't go with Juan Soto, I think they're going to be a very active team. Obviously, if they don't get Soto, there'll be a lot more prospects to open up with. So I think they'll be actively on the market for starting pitching or hitting as well. So, no, this Cardinals are a team to look out for Juan Soto and then just in general. And I think they'll win the sweepstakes. We've seen them make deals in the past, and I'd be excited. And, again, if you see 6-for-1 deal, don't panic.
Don't be surprised.
Yeah, it has to be that kind of panic.
We may trade half the Memphis franchise just for Juan Soto, but that is a sacrifice I'm willing to make.
Yeah.
On the fact that I will probably never see half of those guys come to the light, even though I'd love to see them at some point.
Well, and here, my last thing with Juan Soto, and I'm not saying if his team was better, he'd be hitting 350. I'm not trying to say that. But you got to remember is when your team's bad, you can make an argument Josh Bell because he's having a better year, but there's nobody in that lineup. So no pitchers are trying to throw to Juan Soto. So everything he's getting is out of the zone. If you put him in a lineup with Goldschmidt or Arenado hitting behind him, or
someone in front of him,
one of those three in a row, you're not going to want to walk Juan Soto to face Nolan Arenado. You're not going to want to walk Soto to face Paul Goldschmidt. You actually have to pitch to him, and he's going to get pitches to see. And again, I'm not saying he's going to raise his average from 230 to 350. I'm not trying to sit here and be that guy. But I'm going to say with the Cardinals, I wouldn't be surprised if he hits 275. I'm not saying bring it up to 275 because I think it's a little late in the season to do that. I'm saying with the Cardinals, if you throw out the national stats and just this year, let's say his deal gets done on Saturday. I don't know. You'll be able to see him get hit 275 probably with 10 to 15 home runs in the final 2 months of the season with a lot of RBI. So, no, this is a deal, and this goes not just for Cardinals. This goes for any team who's contending and needs it. I think he's one of the best outfielders. So even if you don't need an outfielder, it'd be a good deal. But especially if you need an outfielder, go get this deal done.
Exactly. Could not say it better myself, Andrew. Just go get a deal done. Mainly that's because I'm impatient when it comes to these things, and I like to see stuff done now and not have to wait. But that's just me personally. Then again, that's why I would not be a good general manager. It's like, let's do it. Let's go.
Well, unfortunately for you, especially because you're a Cardinals fan, so you're going to be all over this trade.
Yes.
You're going to have to wait on a player like this just because the Nationals are going to try to get the bidding war into every. So this deal probably really won't be done until maybe Sunday at the earliest.
Yeah, who knows? It might happen 30 minutes before the deadline ends Tuesday. It just upsets me from like a fan perspective because I want something to happen every day. So we have one big story a day, but they all come, and that's what makes it fun, like you mentioned, where you'll get stuff that is just rapid fire Tuesday morning. You could see 5 guys get traded 5 minutes.
No,
that
exactly.
Wouldn't surprise me.
And the last couple of years, the deadline for a while when I was growing up, the deadline used to be teams waited till the deadline to make. Now it's been fun, I know you said you wanted, but now it has kind of been like that. There has been deals leading up to the deadline, and then the deadline finishes it off going crazy. And especially this year, I think you'll see a handful of deals done before Tuesday itself, and then you'll see more than a handful done on Tuesday.
Yeah, but looking at some of these other storylines here, talking about Tampa Bay, keeping an eye on them, possibly what they could do. They are a team that has inquired about Juan Soto. I think every team in the MLB is going to inquire about Juan Soto. Even if, they're not going to compete in the playoffs, they're still going to see what the price is. And they are the financial obligations are limited. He is arbitration eligible, not tied to a long-time deal. So it's going to be intriguing. What do the Rays do? They expect to get Franco and Margot back in the weeks ahead. But it's going to be interesting for Tampa Bay. They're another team, smack dab in the middle of the AL East, trying to just close out the season strong, get a wild card spot locked up, and compete when they get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I view Tampa Bay as a team as they've had a lot of injuries this year. They're good enough to make the playoffs, but I'm not unless you're getting a Juan Soto, I'm staying pretty neutral. I think they're talented enough where they can stay, they can still make noise, but if you come back next year healthy with a healthy young Franco and everything, I think next year could be a fun year for Tampa. So obviously, go ahead, make trades, get better, whatever. But their team I see staying neutral, not selling or buying. I think they just stay pat where they're at. Hopefully they get some guys back and they'll hopefully take off when they get him back. But no, I don't think they'll be too active at the deadline.
All right, and then the final team we have a little bit of reporting from. I mean, the other one there, just talking about the Nationals and Padres, how well is that a fit? We already discussed that a little bit. But the Cleveland Guardians have 2 players who could be heading to free agency. Their catcher, Austin Hedges, and reliever Brian Shaw, and with some contenders looking for catching depth. Would the Guardians listen to offers? Buster only reporting they possibly could. We'll see. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the business. Even if it doesn't feel like a good offer, it's a guy you want to keep, you'll still listen to the offer. You're still going to see what you can get for him.
Absolutely. Cleveland's a team I have never figured out. They've always had talent. I've always thought they should go for the home run play, and they really haven't. You saw them move on from Francisco Lindor, traded him to the Mets. I was disappointed to see that, just because I've always liked Cleveland. I thought their team has been good enough. They've got pitching left and right on that team, especially when Kluber was healthy, Trevor Bauer was over there, and so I was disappointed to see them move on, because I thought they traded a lot of players. They were expected to have a down year, and they're sitting here competing for a playoff spot. Some pitchers have really come back to life and impressed people this year. So they're another team I could see standing still. But again, they're a team obviously not viewing themselves as true contenders right now. That's partially why they gave up on a Francisco Lindor, and they traded – I don't know why I'm blanking on the pitcher's name they traded last year. Oh, Carlos Carrasco in that deal. And they traded another starter I'm blanking on. But so obviously they had the talent there to compete, kind of like the A's. They kind of gave up on some play, but they're over competing right now. So they're a team, if they get a call for an Austin Hedges, I think they'd be willing to part with him. I think especially because they're free agents, and they're a team that usually makes a deal. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him. Especially, you saw him make trades with the Mets last year. Mets are a team that are looking for both a catcher and a reliever, so who's to say that a deal with them doesn't get done again? That was a big rumor today. Mets are looking for Contreras and Roberson from the Cubs as a possible deal.
Also saw where Ian Happ is a potential person that could get traded from the Cubs, which as a Cardinals fan, let me say, please. That guy torches us every time. I do not like it.
Listen, I need another outfielder, so I'd love that Ian Happ. So please find a way to get it done. But no, so I could see that being a suitor. But no, I would not be surprised to see those 2 guys mentioned in Hedges and Shaw traded, just because that's who Cleveland is. And here's the thing, though, too. I wouldn't be surprised to see them flip it if they have a good week here leading up to next Tuesday, and they go, let's not trade for Juan Soto, but let's go trade for a lesser player where we don't have to give up that much. But this guy could be a difference in a playoff run, kind of like you saw last year when Acuna went down. You saw the Braves, they weren't trading for a Juan Soto-type player, but they traded for Jorge Soler, Jock Peterson, guys that will make a difference, and they went on a huge, obviously, World Series run and won it. So I could see, I'm not saying Cleveland goes on to win the World Series, but I could see Cleveland spinning it where let's go get 2 above-average players, but not guys that we're going to have to sell the farm for. So, now, Cleveland's a team, depending on what happens this next week, you could see either way next week.
Yeah, it's going to be fun for sure. But moving into our final thing to talk about for the day, there is Big Ten Media Days going on and all that. We'll get to that later on down the road in some other show because I'm going to be honest, not a lot happened at Big Ten. There are a few things that are of somewhat interest, but we'll keep it more baseball-oriented here to round out July. Looking at the standings before we get on out of here, the Yankees continuing to control the AL East, as you'd expect, with that 66-31 record they have. 12.5 games behind them are Toronto, and the AL East just continues to dominate, but one team sits above them all, and it's the Yankees. Shout out to the Orioles being 48-48, though. This is officially the latest this has ever happened where all teams are 500 or better in a division.
Wait, what a crazy way. And how about Toronto? I mean, a team we talked about. I was sitting here I guess 2 weeks ago when I thought it was a mistake they fired the manager. I'm not ready to say it wasn't a mistake because here's the thing. They're 8-2 obviously in the last 10. They've won 6 straight. They've gained 3 games on the Yankees in the last 10 games. But here's the thing. I don't want to call them lucky, but
you look at the schedule they had right after.
Not only that, but look at the players that were missing. The Phillies, they were missing 3 of their best hitters. When they went up there because they weren't vaccinated. You look at Kansas City. Kansas City's not even good, and they were still missing
half their team.
40. Like. Yeah, I think it was over 40% other team, especially Andrew Benintendi. Cardinals, I don't know if that series started last night. I can't remember if it starts tonight, but they're missing Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and somebody else, I think, in that lineup. So there's two. I think it's only a 2-game series. So there's 2 games. I expect Toronto to beat St. Louis just because they're missing 3 of their best, or their 3 best players in Goldschmidt and Arenado. So again, Toronto's a weird team to read just for that reasoning, but they're going to sneak into the playoffs. I think they will. They're not sneak, but they will get in, whether it's obviously probably wild card, unless Yankees have the biggest collapse in MLB history probably, which I wouldn't be opposed to.
I don't think anyone would except the Yankees fans.
But here's the thing. Could you imagine Toronto getting a home game? And, I mean, getting a home game and you're a team that has to go up there and miss all your players? Because it's, I don't know, I always forget. The MLB formatting this year is weird. There's 3 wildcard teams, and I'm pretty sure it's like the first 2 play each other, and then the third plays the 1 seed or something like that. So if Toronto is that number 1 wildcard team, and let's just pick, I don't know, let's pick the Mariners. Let's hope they finally break their playoff drought.
Well, let's hope.
And I'm not saying this. I have no idea who's vaccinated on that team.
We're just using him as an example.
But let's say Julio Rodriguez, the rookie of the year favorite, isn't that, and they gotta miss him for the playoffs. And let's say Logan Gilbert, a surprise young pitcher. No, I mean everyone thought he was going to be good, but not like this good. He's having a very good year. Let's say he can't go up there, and you're now missing your best starter, your best Toronto could benefit tremendously there from that. But the counter to that is they're going to be limited at the trade deadline because you don't want to trade for an Andrew Benintendi because you're going to be missing him for all your home games if that's the case. So it's going to be – Toronto's an interesting team. We'll see how it shakes out. But they're a fun team to watch, and I like Vlad Guerrero and all them, so I hope they continue it.
I hope so, too. It's been fun seeing some of the other teams you think about, but not as much, I guess you could say. Exactly. Kind of some of the underdog teams get in there. And the AL Central is full of them. I would say, probably one of the best underdog divisions in terms of teams. The Twins right now, 52-44 record. They are leading the AL Central by 3.5 games over the Cleveland Guardians, who are 48-47. And the Chicago White Sox just half a game behind. White Sox have won 7 of their last 10, trying to catch back up and get into the race here, even though people were calling to fire La Russa a little bit ago, and now here they are back in the division race.
Yeah, another team, a weird team to read. A lot of injuries over there. Lance Lynn was missing a lot of the year. Kopech obviously has dealt with his injuries in his career. So they're another team. I hope they got a lot of guys. I would love to watch Tim Anderson in the playoffs in a big, meaningful game. They got Jose Abreu, obviously a fun name too. So their team, I hope, find a way to sneak in the playoffs, whether it's wild card or division. In that case, so. I don't know. I hope they do. Obviously, they have a lot of ground to make up, and we'll see if they're able to do it. But their team, I'm sitting here expecting them to turn. They just got too much talent to continue to be this bad. And I will say is if they miss the playoffs, there's no way Lewis is back next year.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the AL West, the Mariners we'll get to in a moment, but the Houston Astros are still in charge. 64-33 record, 12 games above the Mariners. And I saw the stat earlier today. The Mariners won 14 games in a row and moved up 1 spot, 1 game behind Houston. That's just how dominant the Astros have been as well. And then you've got the Rangers, Angels, and A's all just kind of trying to tread water, but they're making an effort, but they're not getting there.
Yeah, congratulations, Angels. You continue to always be the most disappointing team. I mean,
every year.
There's nothing baseball fans and average fans want more than to watch Ohtani and Trout.
What's their biggest highlight of the year as a team? Getting into that fight a few weeks ago?
I just don't get how a team can have 2 MVP caliber players on it like that. And they just never. It's not even that they missed the playoffs.
It's that
they never come close.
Yeah.
To it. We can't even watch a September/October playoff race with them playing meaningful baseball. It's just a shame. And you mentioned Ohtani. I'd be surprised if he get dealt at the deadline this year because he's under control for 2 more years. So you'd be crazy if you're the Angels to say, "Oh, let's give up and not go into next year," because you'll have the availability to trade him next year as well. So they'd be crazy to say, let's not run it back with 2 MVPs possibly and hope next year's different. But, I mean, obviously I could be wrong. But, yeah, I'd be surprised if he's dealt. But Astros, I think, the Astros, they'll obviously always be up there. They got one of the most fun rookies, too, in Pena on that team. And I think that's what's fun is Astros and Mariners, two of the hottest teams in the league. Got two of the best rookies on there playing well too. So no, it's fun.
It is an absolutely fun time in the AL. Also a fun time in the NL. Looking at the NL East, the Mets still ahead with a 59-37 record, just looking to get better here at the deadline. The Braves only 2 games behind them, and the Phillies 7 games behind the Braves. Everyone's still in the playoff race there, and the Marlins only 6 games below 500, so they're trying to make an impact there as well. And then you have the Nationals. They're just existing.
Yeah, they're trying Juan Soto. Yeah, minus 159 run differential. How about that? But no,
they won 2 in a row.
That's true. No, it's gonna be a fun race down the stretch. I think everybody's waiting for the Mets' big collapse like usual. Yeah. So am I as a Mets hater. But listen, I mean, let's be realistic. They're getting Jacob deGrom back. You'll have deGrom and Scherzer at the top of that rotation. Obviously, a deadly duo. It's gonna be a fun race. Obviously, I hope the Phillies get back into it. But let's just talk right now. Mets only 2 games up on the Braves. That's gonna be a fun. Especially you saw, obviously, Braves won the World Series last year. They got what it takes. So that's going to be a fun back-and-forth battle. Mets have a huge advantage on pitching, in my opinion. So I think that might be why the Mets are able to survive this. But listen, we were sitting here a few weeks ago saying Mets are, 10 games up on the Braves, 13 up on the Phillies. Phillies have gained 4 games over the last month. Braves, obviously, one of the hottest teams in the league. And I think they won 2 out of 3 against the Mets last week. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch, but I don't know if that Mets collapse will happen. Obviously, again, I'm hoping for it, but we'll see.
And then the NL Central, a bit of a similar scenario here. The Brewers have a 53-44 record. The Cardinals 2 games behind them. I really want to see how this ends, especially if the Cardinals do get Juan Soto. If you build a big 3, I think you can beat Milwaukee. I think you can beat them without Juan Soto, obviously. I do believe in the Cardinal way. I am subscribed to the Cardinal way, that they will find a way to go on a random winning streak at some point late in the year and take the division from the Brewers. But, man, I've said it before. I know I said it on the last show before we went. The division is never determined by the 2 top teams. It's always determined by Cincinnati. It's always determined by Pittsburgh. It's always determined by one of those teams. I'm sure it's the same way in other divisions, or at least feels like it. But those games late in the year are going to make all the difference. And I already saw it with the Cardinals. They struggled against the Reds again because that continues to happen for some reason. I'll never understand that. But it's going to be a fun race. I'm excited to see what happens in it.
Yeah, better watch out for the Cubs, though. 6-game win streak.
I know. They're trying. They're getting more relevant by the day.
No, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, is with or without Juan Soto, I think the Cardinals win this division. They've been there before. They're obviously not the same players used to be, but Wainwright and Molina are coming down to the end of their stretch. Albert Pujols. Yeah. I think the team is going to rally behind those 3. I think, again, I think they're capable. Obviously, the Brewers have the upper hand on pitching, and Corbin Burns. I think Jack Flaherty hasn't gone this year, or he's gone, but not much.
All our pitchers are injured right
now.
So
Cardinals are a little behind on that front, but again, I think they'll be able to. They're going to be active at the deadline. They'll be able to get something done. And I take run differential in a little bit more account in baseball than other sports, because it's not. I mean, yeah, you get a handful of games where it's a little, but everybody's got the misleading games. Yeah. So I take run differential, and I think it's more accurate in baseball than a lot of other sports. And I sit here and see the Cardinals plus 31 over the Brewers. I think that is something to see. It's only 2 games. Cardinals started a little slow. It took Goldschmidt a little bit to get going. And he's been on fire. Sorry, not Goldschmidt. Nolan Arenado started well, went into a little bit of a slump. Saw him kind of drop out of the MVP race for a little bit. I think his average went down to close to like 270 after hitting 320 for a while. Now he's back to what he's been. And you saw his Cardinals team kind of take off a little bit and get back in that race. So I think St. Louis wins this division when it's all said and done. And I was saying this to somebody back home. I don't have a lot of trust in Milwaukee. I don't know what it is, because they're always there. They're always contending. We've seen them in the playoffs in the past, but there's just something about them I never can trust. And I will not pick them to win usually in big games. And I get it. Corbin Burns is a fantastic pitcher, but that lineup, it just scares me. Like, there's really nothing in there that Christian Yelich isn't what he used to be. Like, there's nothing there. I'm like, oh, I mean, there's not it's not a stacked lineup or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't trust Milwaukee.
And the final division to talk about, the NL West. What can I say about the LA Dodgers that hasn't already been said this year? Dominant, doing what they do best, 64-31 record, best in the National League, 11.5 games above the Padres, who are 54-44. When you're that good and you're still 11.5 games behind the best team, that just shows you a bit of the gap, kind of like how the Yankees are this year and the Astros as well. Just so much talent on that Dodgers team. Where do you even want to start is how it feels most days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You start with Mookie Betts and how the Red Sox still somehow traded him. He's a guy I still can't believe was moved. But, no, I mean, they're the most stacked team from pitching to hitting. I mean, you got Kershaw, Walker. I mean, there's just you name the player on that team. Mookie Betts, obviously. Cody Bellinger, I know he's not exactly what he used to be. Obviously still a fantastic hitter, though. No, they'll always be one of the favorites, kind of like Tampa Bay Buccaneers in football. They'll be up there. They're a rich team. They know how to get things done. They got Magic Johnson as the owner. People want to go play for him, obviously, and stuff, being the big LA name. So, no, they're a fun team. We'll see if they can get the job done come the postseason. Obviously, we haven't seen them do that outside the COVID year, so we'll see what happens. But, no, there's plenty of talent on that Dodger team.
I mean, there is plenty of talent in that team. It blows my mind, like you said. Mookie Betts got traded to the Dodgers. I still – there are days I just don't understand why any of the things go the Dodgers' way, and they still do.
LA?
Yeah, I guess so. That's about all you could say about them, but that will do it for our show today. If you enjoyed what you heard, feel free to give us a follow at twitch.tv/NWTV7 or subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Guys Who Stare at Stats or the NWTV7 YouTube channel. For Andrew Santangelo, I am Cade Kennedy. If you want to stay informed on when our next show is, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at NWTV7. Until next time, have a good one, everybody.